Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Carry on with Kitab al-Hayd. Inshallah, we'll be taking a few more masail with regards to Hayd. We had spoken about Aqallul Hayd, okay? Aqallul Hayd is the least amount of Hayd a woman can have. Ibrahim in the Hanafi madhab is how much? Aqallul Hayd. This is Hayd.
ثلاثة يوم.
3 days, correct. That's 3 days. Okay. And what's the most? أكثر?
10 يوم.
10. It's 10 days. Okay. Now, what I want you to notice here, the Hanafi madhab, anything less than 3 days, okay, will be considered istihada. Okay. It's the asl. And here, anything more than 10 days will be considered istihada. Together? Then you've got something called tuhur. Tuhur is cleanliness. So a woman is through, meaning through her life, she goes through hayd and tuhur. So here they tell you, in the Hanafi madhab, again, you've got aqallu tuhur and aktharu tuhur. Aqallu tuhur is 15 days. Okay? Aktharu tuhur, the most amount of time a woman can be clean for, there's no limit. Why is there no limit? For example, if you think of a woman who's past menopause, for example, she no longer has periods. So let's say, for example, she's 65 years old and she could live for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, unlimited amount of time, meaning there's no limit to it. Or you find a girl who's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe still hasn't come on a period, 11, 12, 13. So it's not something that can be counted in days. So when it comes to aktharu tuhur, there's no limit. Now, why do they mention this? Because as you'll take later, in the coming lessons, if you've got, for example, if this is the month, okay, that's the 1st of the month, the 10th of the month, and then the 30th of the month, for example. If a woman started on the 1st of the month, and let's say she goes 10 days, okay, this can be considered to be hayd. Now, if she tells us, for example, on the 12th, that she started hayd again, we will say no. Why? Because the least amount of time that she has to be clean after a period, according to the Hanafi madhab, should be 15 days. So if she tells us she started on the 12th, we say no, it's not hayd. Rather, it's istihada. In the madhab, they'll tell her that this is istihada. What's istihada? Istihada is blood, and they say it's similar to a nosebleed in the sense of, meaning in respect to its ruling. So in the same way, if a person's got a nosebleed, in the Hanafi madhab, it doesn't prevent them or stop them from performing salah or fasting, etc. Yes, they clean it, they hold it, they make wudu, and they carry on. So that's one of the reasons they tell you this, hayd and tuhur. So in case a woman carries on seeing blood after 10 days, okay, example 13th, 14th, etc., they tell her that this is istihada, because aqallu tuhur should be 15 days. So she should at least last up to the 25th. Okay, 25th of the month. Then,
Oh,
yeah.
So the two periods will be regarded as a continuous period of bleeding, so to speak.
No.
The two periods of okay.
Let's say a woman says, I see blood from, let's say when she got her period, start from the 1st to the 10th. Then she tells you, I see blood from the 1st to the 20th. Is this all hayd or not? Okay.
No.
You asked it, it's not hayd. So what will we do? We'll say 1 up to 10 is hayd. We're not going to consider it one period, meaning up to the 20th. No, this is going to be considered a period, and this is going to be considered istihadah, what she's seeing. Just like a nosebleed. It doesn't prevent her from reading salah, fasting, etc. Did you understand?
Understood.
Right. Then you've got the different types of women. Okay. Kitab al-Hayd. You've got a few different types of women. You've got those who are starting off, and a girl who's 9, 10, 11, she's starting off. And then you've got those people who, and there's a few different ones, we'll go through them. For now, we'll just summarize them as those people who have normal periods. Okay? So the woman's already started, and then she's developed a habit, and this habit falls within the normal range. So, for example, every month she has 6 days, 7 days, whatever, and it carries on as 6 days, 6 days, 6 days, etc. And then you've got those people who've got irregular periods or bleeding. They could be those who are starting off, but the blood never ever stopped. They could be those who had normal periods, but then things changed. They could be those who had a normal period, and then after that, because things changed, they forgot, so they became confused. And they could also be those people who no longer have periods. So today we're not going to touch this, and we're not going to touch this. We're going to start here. Okay? We're going to start here. In the Hanafi madhab, woman who's starting hayd, she's reached the age where it's more than likely she's going to have hayd. We would say that either she's going to have a normal cycle or an abnormal cycle. Normal cycle meaning she starts off and she bleeds, for example, anything more than anything between 3 and 10 days. And then it carries on like that. So the first month, 5 days, second month, 5 days, third month, 5 days, fourth month, 5 days, etc., etc., etc. So from the first time she starts, and then her period stopped at 5 days, for example, let's say this is your habit, this is your ada, 5 days, okay? And then if she's got an abnormal period, meaning that she starts bleeding, let's say a girl at 12 years old, first time, she starts bleeding, and the blood carries on and on and on. So let's say, for example, on the 15th of the month, she starts bleeding, okay? However, the blood carries on all the way to the 30th. And that's the first ever time. We'll tell her from day 1 up to day 10, we'll count that. Meaning day one is day 15. So meaning from the 15th, we'll count that as day 1, the day it started. Count 10 days. So that will be what? The 25th. Or the 24th, 25th. Count 10 days from here. It will be the 24th. Because if you're counting the 15th also, we'll tell her up to there is your period. Okay. More than that, the other 4 days, that's considered istihadah. So whatever is on this side will take the rulings of hayd. Okay? In the sense that no salah, no fasting, etc. And whatever's on this side will take the ruling of istihada. Did you understand? Did you understand?
Yeah. Because the 10 days is the maximum, and
10 days the maximum according to
what
them.
exceeds the 10 days is an istihada. Yes.
According to them. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll take this, and this is quite straightforward. In fact, you can take it now because this is exactly this woman. The next month and the following month and the following month, she's got an ad that doesn't change. So, for example, let's say she started off here with 5 days, and then the next month is 5 days, and the next month is 5 days, and comes at the same time, 5 days, 5 days, 5 days. We'll say that this woman is somebody who is called mu'tada. Mu'tada, somebody who is now used to it, meaning it's become a habit. Okay? And if you read some of the shorter Hanafi books, they don't even go into detail here. They only say that if she sees more than 10 days, consider it istihada. However, the only reason I went into, I broke it down is because in the other madhahib, they tell her, hold on, she must first establish an aada for 3 months. So the first period we'll just consider it istihada, and the second time we'll consider it istihada, and the third time we'll consider it, and she must make qada of salah and som, etc. And then if she sees that, meaning she must read salah and fast, etc. However, here it's very simple. So this woman, if it carries on, then she becomes mu'tada, somebody who's used to it. Then tomorrow, inshallah, we'll start off with what happens when there's some sort of irregularity, when there's some sort of change. Understood? Also, you might ask a question here. Where did I draw that? This we'll take it tomorrow, inshallah, because there's a little bit mentioned. Let's say a woman, let's draw here. Let's say from the 1st up to the 10th, okay? Let's say the 1st and the 2nd, there's blood. And then it stops. So first and the 2nd, there's blood. The 3rd and the 4th, there's no blood, okay? And then the 5th, there's blood. Okay? Saeed,
Yeah,
what
Sheikh.
would you say here? Would you say this is hayd, or this is less than 3 days and there's no blood? What would you say?
I think it will be regarded as continuous bleeding because it's 2 periods. Within the bleeding period, the 2
Don't say
separate
two.
periods.
Don't say 2 periods. Cause 1 period.
1 period, but 2. How you call it then? 2. Yeah. What's the word?
No, it's they'll call this tuhur fasid, where this is a false form of purification. You will say the period started here on the 1st. And let's say, for example, here, say this is the 6th. On the 6th, she stopped. Okay. We'll tell her here, your period starts on the 1st and ends on the 5th. As long as this bleeding that occurred here and here is within the 15, within the 10 days. You see?
Yeah, so regarded as 1 period.
So,
Yes.
and they give the example of nisab, of paying zakah. If you have, for example, here on the 1st of the year, you have $1 million. And then on the second, you became bankrupt and you have nothing. And then on day number 345 of the year, meaning toward the end of the year now, your business picks up and you made $1 million again. They'll tell you must pay zakah, even if you had zero here, even if you're bankrupt. Why? You look at the beginning and you look at the end and you make sure it's in the time frame of 1 year. So similarly here, look at the beginning and the end and make sure it's within the time frame of the 10 days. For example, here, we'll say that the woman, let's say on the 6th, she became clean. We'll tell her your period is 5 days. And if, for example, on the 7th, she starts bleeding again, and we'll tell her your period is, and let's say she stops on the 8th, I'll say, no, this here, the fact that this blood carries on within the 10 days, 1st, 5th, 7th, we'll say your period is all the way up to the 7th, 8th, the day you became clean. And we carry on with this all the way until the 10th. More than the 10th and more than that is istihada. Any more questions with what we've taken? Ibrahim?
I have two questions.
Ibrahim?
So, whether one who was starting off the first month is considered one as long as it's within 3 and 10 days.
The what, sorry?
The one who's starting off.
Yeah.
So
As long as it's within 10 days, yes. So that will be a period.
then, is it just any amount of blood, like to be considered period,
Not
like on the
all women bleed differently. I mean, there's those who start off, the women are more knowledgeable than in that, but there's those who start off heavy and then they slow down for the next so many days. And then there's those who start off light and then carry on. So it's not according to the amount of blood. And later on, you'll also take, if a woman carries on seeing blood, then is she allowed to differentiate? Because the blood of hayd is slightly different to the normal blood, as some of the ulama mentioned. So is she able to differentiate between that or not? That's another mas'ala altogether.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Sheikh, I think then the last topic part of the bab we need to cover is then postnatal bleeding, right? Of tahara.
Yes, inshallah. We're still getting there. They'll still give you a masail on istihada. Why they mention istihada and along with istihada is because there's other people who are similar to istihada. They mention, for example, man bihi salasul bawl. So a person who, if they carry on having urine that's dripping. So here, they, how do they read salah? Do they have to carry on making wudu 50 times or what do they do? So a person who's in istihada, as well as having a nosebleed, as well as someone who has salasul bawl, etc., then they also mention these masail. And we'll get to them. Hopefully in the middle of next week, inshallah, we'll finish Kitab al-Hayd. And then there's one more chapter. Usually the other books in fiqh, they finish off with Kitab al-Hayd, and the other madahib here, they still have Izalatun Najasa, how to remove Najasa. And then we finished from there. And there's a few technical masail go into detail. They're not really mentioned in the mutun, but they tell you go to the mutawwalat, the long reference books in the madhab. Inshallah, we'll stop there. I want to carry on with sarf, nahu, because it's important, nahu. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So in the last lesson again, carry on mentioning this and repeating. We said we have marfu', okay? Here we're talking about i'rab. I'rab is the change on the last letter of the word. Will it take a fatha, dhamma, kasra? Why would it take a fatha, dhamma, kasra, etc.? So we started off with marfu'. And we said, firstly, what shows us that a word is marfu is if it has a dhamma. Is that all words? No. They gave you 4. They said اسم مفرد, جمع تكسير, جمع مؤنث سالم, فعل مضارع الذي لم يتصل بآخره شيء. Okay. Number 2, they said at times dhamma may not show us that it's marfu. However, it will send or it will be a waw instead. Okay, here's dhamma. Okay. When will be a waw? First one, if it's jam' mudhakkar salim. Okay. Now, why are they telling you this? So you don't make a mistake. Instead of saying muslimuna, you say muslimina. The meaning is the same, but the i'rab is different. So can you see jam' mudhakkar salim? Here, i'rab, or we show that it's marfu' with waw. So muslimuna, for example. And we took asma'ul khamsa. Asma'ul khamsa, there's 5 nouns that have a special ruling where they will be marfu' with dhamma. We took them abuka, akhuka, hamuka, fuka, and dhu, bima'na sahib. Understood up to there? Number 3, at times, a word may be marfu'. However, it won't be with a dhamma, it won't be with a waw, it will be with an alif. And this only occurs in one instance. Which instance is that? They say في تثنية الأسماء خاصة. So تثنية means jewel. Okay, so remember when we were saying we took singular, then there's jewel, and then there's plural. Asma meaning nouns. So it's got nothing to do with verbs. Okay, تثنية الأسماء. So I give you an example.
Is asma the plural of ism?
Yes, correct. So تثنية الأسماء. Now let's give you one word, for example. Muslimun, okay, means one Muslim. Okay, this is singular. How do you make a word? It's masculine. How do you make it dual? You add alif and nun. The same word you'd say muslimani, means 2. And how do you make it plural? We already took here jam mudhakkar salim. You just add waw and a nun. That will become muslimuna. To take that as a rule also. If you've got a noun, okay, and you want to make it dual, you add alif and nun. Okay, and that's even to do with jama taksir. So for example, rajulun, the plural is rijalun. There's no waw and nun. Why? It's jama taksir. However, to say 2 men, you say rajulani. So the same rajul, ra, jim, and lam. You want to make it dual, just add alif and nun. Rajulani. So here, if you see the word rajulani, is it marfu, mansub, majroor? We're not looking at this harakat, and we're saying that this word here is tathniya. Shows us 2, dual. So it will be marfu' with an alif. You understand? Understood or didn't understand?
Yes, Sheikh, understood.
Ibrahim.
So there's a so in the dual in the and it's salim, then it's gonna
There's a what?
when it's dual and salim, it's gonna be
Also alif and nun. Muslimun, muslimani. Taksir, also alif and nun. This is for man. Rajulun, rajulani. Qalamun, qalamani.
So
I want you to look at it from two angles. You can look at it like this or like that. Firstly, let's put here nouns and verbs. What type of, or what can a noun be in terms of i'rab? It can be marfu', or the second we haven't yet taken it can be mansub, or the third it can be majroor. Meaning, if you saying muslimun, okay, as marfu', this muslimun can also be mansub. So there's a way of saying it, musliman, and it can also be majroor, muslimin. And this one here, muslimani, the one we took today, is marfu'. The meaning is the same. Notice how the meaning is all the same. It's just grammar. Meaning it still means two Muslims. Here we say muslimani if it's marfu'. If it's mansub, as you take, you'll say muslimaini. Okay, that will be with ya and nun. So they're trying to give you the rules here so you know this and you know that and you know that. And then what you've got to realize is that the nouns as well as the verbs, they have a singular form, a dual form, and a plural form. It's quite simple. If you even if you write down exactly what I've given you in your own way or even the same way, but when you write, you're able to understand more and then you ask questions, and that way it sticks, inshallah. Any questions?
so when a noun is singular, you can tell it's marfu' with the dhamma.
Yes. Why? Because we talk about singular. We said, so for example, let's come here. See, there's a lot of different ways you can divide. Let's take this as masculine, okay? And we said masculine, you can have singular, you can have dual, and you can have plural. Singular we already took, like muslimun, okay? الضمة مرفوع الضمة. Today we took dual. How will be مرفوع with alif, so muslimani. How will be plural with waw? We already took that, muslimun. It's all masculine. Feminine, what we've taken so far is singular, which is same like masculine, will be marfu with dhamma. And we've taken plural, which will also be marfu with dhamma. If this plural is salim, also be marfu with dhamma. والسماوات, for example. And dual will also be like this one, marfu with alif. So here's the difference. The difference is here. When you're speaking about your plural, you've got jam mudhakkar salim, which will be marfu with waw. Jam muannas salim will be marfu with dhamma. This is in nouns. There's a lot of ways of looking at it, similar to, for example, this phone. You can look at it from the front, you can look at it from the side, you can look at it from the top, you can look at it from the bottom. You're still looking at the same phone. However, you're looking at it from different angles. So similarly here, we can look at it from the angle of how the i'rab goes, or you can look at it from the fact that they are nouns, verbs, etc. Or you can look at it from another angle. So don't be confused. It's all one and the same thing. Anything else? Any other question?